It Takes a Lunatic is a 2019 documentary about the life of Wynn Handman. Think about it, people. His name is Wynn Handman. If you have that name, you're going to do well in life. And this man did well in life. He was a he was a theater director and teacher. And so he was effective. He affected many lives in his very long life. As a World War veteran, boy, he hated the Nazis. And as somebody who found himself in the classroom, he loved his students. I think this movie is for everybody. If you are not a theater geek, I kind of am. I kind of I love plays and things, but um, you'll still get something out of it. You'll see how this man helped the careers of Eric Bogosian, Alec Baldwin, Susan Lucci, John Leguizamo, John Malkovich, Sam Shepard. These are big names, and you'll really get a sense of these people and how Wynn Handman shaped them in terms of their acting careers. And if you are a theater geek, you'll really get a lot. Man, this movie is like the embrace of theater that I've been looking for. Like when I watched this, I thought, I want to get back into it. I want to go back to acting because it's so in the moment. You feel like you're there working. Like Alec Baldwin at one point talks about the work, but the work is fun, and it's especially fun when it's in the hands of Wynn Handman, who cared. He cared about these students. So there's specific ways I do want to talk about how he did that, but I want to mention that he came from the style of directing and acting of the Sanford Meisner approach. So it gets very much into the weeds of that idea at times, but I'll just say this: Sanford Meisner, who was his mentor, was more of the tough, brass knuckles, intense, hypnotic style of acting. Look into your eyes, and you're going to do X, Y, and Z. But Wynn Handman had a more caring hand. He had a more loving style to him, in which actors really uh, embraced and really felt the nurturing style of him. And as a result, he changed and revolutionized a generation of actors. There's a lot to say about him and this movie. It does venture off into talking about his American Place Theater, and it ventures off for a while. And it talks about his embrace of experimental theater, his love of African American theater, and bringing in those actors. And not many people were doing that, but he did. And he loved the experiment. He loved the change of styles. And he was revolutionary in the way of bringing in subscriptions, and not through merely get people in the seats and fundraising, although he did that later. Overall, fantastic.
Wow. I mean, you said so much. Like everything you share, I go, yeah. It's so true. We're teachers, and he's a true teacher. And like he's a little different than Meisner that you mentioned, Ruben. And one of them, as you shared, he was like the nice guy. Meisner had him be his assistant for about 5 years, and the students loved to go to him because they say, well, he's like the good cop, bad cop, right? He was the one that was pleasant with them, gave them good vibes. And you saw that, Ruben, throughout the whole film. They actually show video of him as a young man, pictures, and they showed him up until 2019, I think. I think 2020 he died of COVID, but up until 2019, where he's like 97 years old and he's still teaching. He was still teaching like 5 days a week, right? And he's still having an impact on students' lives, and they would want to take pictures with him and just be next to him, and he loved it, and he knew their name. And I think that's a big part of it, is that you know what's, and something, my wife was took theater classes like you, and she would say, man, some of these professors are tough, you know, they just come at you. And he wasn't that way at all. And I think that type of a relationship with a student, and where students feel safe, it's a safe place, they're not going to get cut down. Because in theater it's easy to say, just kind of just demolish somebody, right? Hey, that was terrible, or I gotta do it again. But he seemed like he was like, hey, let's try it again, or the way he talked to him, right, it was just so kind. And then I think there's a cool quote at the end of the film regarding, was it Tolstoy, regarding giving your life. I mean, you're going to live forever if you've given your life to your students or to people. And so I think that's what he did. He's going to live forever because of what he did in that classroom and how he spent those minutes with them. And yeah, I could go on with him, but he definitely loves seeing the history. I think a little bit more I would like to have seen more, Ruben, is his family, like the background. I know he had a couple of daughters and his wife, touched on it a little bit, but I'd like to know, and also how the theater closed, the American Place Theater closed after like 40 years. I'm not sure all the reasons why that happened. He did make mention that he wasn't a great businessman, but man, they had such a big influence in New York. Like you shared, Ruben, all these actors, even Dustin Hoffman, so Richard Gere, they all worked with him, and they all just sing his praises. And not only the actors, but the writers and directors who were doing all these avant-garde pieces, right, that nobody else did.
Well, I'm gonna have to
throw a red flag.
Throw a flag on the play. You said theater. You said theater for him was a safe space. Actually, no, it was not. One of the quotes is, he said his theater is not a safe space.
No, I meant safe place where they would feel that they got a lot of kind feedback. You're right, not safe place where they're going to learn, but I think where he was going to be gentle with them.
I think they felt safe.
Yeah,
in the sense of they felt the love, that he cared. They felt that he cared
for sure.
But he definitely didn't feel that. Yeah, in terms of the style of play, it wasn't safe for the audience, for sure.
Yeah.
For the actor, yes, it was safe.
Fair.
So I started thinking about this movie in terms of what it is to be a teacher, and how at one point it says, I want to create a place, the American Place Theater. I want to create a place where things happen. That's how he put it, where things happen. And I thought about the difference between that and some classrooms. And I even asked myself, do things happen in my classroom, or do we learn the standards? Do we get the benchmarks?
Yeah.
Do we take the diagnostic essay? Or do things really happen? You know, because I think I'd rather have things happen. I want a student to love reading in my class. I want a student to really care about the ideas that might, or the themes of Death of a Salesman, or some of what comes out of 12 Angry Men, the Bill of Rights, and to talk about it. I want things to happen. I mean, what do you think about that?
I mean, yeah, I mean, I think that's what was brought up a lot in the film, where people were saying, wow, we've never seen this before, right? A lot of the not only the people who came and saw the play, but even the actors would say, this was not done. And for us, Ruben, we've seen that maybe later on, and maybe other theaters we saw some, we've seen a couple of plays that were like, wow, this is different. But that's all he was doing. I think he was throwing it at his audience all the time. And I think that's okay. I think that's fine. I think, and I think he mentioned, Ruben, that there were a lot of times where there were no hits, right? It took a while sometimes where they got a hit, and then they went with it. But that's okay. And he was okay with that. He's like, it's all right. I want to produce plays where people are going to go away and talk about it. Isn't it okay to have a conversation on your way home from watching one of his plays and say, what did we just see today? And then say, wow. I think there was one play where I think it was Richard Gere. He was in a die on an electric chair, right? And nobody was talking about that. They were talking about other things, but then this guy's just sitting there like, what's going on? And the audience is like, what is going on here? But then they internalize and start thinking about it. Wait a minute.
So it's the idea of
message here.
It's the idea of challenging an audience to
Yes.
push them further than what they're used to doing.
For sure.
This is something that Wynn Handman tried to underscore in his theater. It's a valuable tool. So what we're trying to do is not just leave it on the screen and say, oh, that was a good documentary,
Right.
but how does it apply to us as teachers? How can we take this message, and maybe some of it we can't. Maybe some of it is just can stay in the theater, but
Well,
I like the idea of taking chances.
Yeah.
And I ask myself the question, do I take chances or do I just keep, retreading the lesson plan from year after year, or do I do something different? Do I push myself? That's the question I ask.
But even something little as this, like recently I moved my desk just to get a different feel. The kids were not excited about it. They don't like the change, right? I say, hey, let's be a little uncomfortable here. Maybe this arrangement is gonna make it easier for me to move around and be able to talk to you and be able to work with you better. Let's just try it out. I know that's something simple, but that was a big move for them. And that's one piece, but it could also be, hey, let's do a little bit more teaching on the other side of the room, or
Wynn Handman is getting John Leguizamo to do one-man shows and Eric Bogosian nationwide tours of one-man shows, and you're moving your desk 2 feet. Sounds like a comparable thing.
We're talking about teaching. How do I apply it to the classroom, Rube? But yeah, I mean, obviously that's minor, but it's something. I mean, it's something to start. Obviously, the content, how to make it more exciting, how to do it a little different, right?
Do it differently.
Yeah, do it
Try
differently.
Something
period.
Very different.
Yeah.
And it could be, you know what? I saw a teacher do something that is uncomfortable for me, that doesn't sit right. Yeah. Maybe that's a way of doing it. Maybe that's a message, an internal message to you to do it, or to do something like it in your own style. I do want to mention 2 quotes. He says at one point, he took the fear out of my performing. I like that. I like that because I'm reminded that students walk in, some of them in fear. Oh man, they're going to make me turn in my homework and they're going to make me do it in terms of a skill that I'm not strong in. Or so maybe that's the not submission, the lack of submissions that we're seeing in a particular student. They're going to make me get up there and speak. There's fear there. How do we take the fear out? And that's a pretty interesting quote. I do want to say that you said, he mentioned a quote from
I thought it was Tolstoy.
It wasn't Tolstoy.
Was it Trotsky? It was Trotsky. Who quotes Trotsky, Ruben? Who quotes him?
I mean, if it's a good quote, it's a good quote.
Okay.
And the quote is
Trotsky, yeah.
We only die if we do not live on in others. And so I think it's a good message in the sense that what we do, what we say can really carry on in our students' lives. And that could be negative too. And so very good documentary. Check it out, everybody. It Takes a Lunatic. And that title comes from, I think, one of his lawyers, when they said to him, if you want to start a nonprofit theater, it takes a lunatic to do something like that. And he said that I guess I'm that lunatic because his goal, and he mentioned this several times, is the ascendance of the human. How do we get each other to the better place, to a higher place? That was his goal in life. And that's really powerful. Sure. How do we get there when we have bills to pay? It's hard to concentrate about ascending the lives of our students if we have, different bills and stuff. But if we get to that place, I think it's ideal. Anyway, thanks everybody. Check it out. It Takes a Lunatic. I'll see you next time. Bye-bye.